The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising and have come to do him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it has been written through the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. Herod sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, and I too may go and do him homage." After their audience with the king, they set out. And behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star. And on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country by another way. The Gospel of the Lord. Well, Happy New Year. It's the first time we've been together since the calendar moved from 2020 to 2021. I don't know about you, but I was really hoping for something more. Intellectually, I knew it's going to be the same, but emotionally, I just thought, if we can get this behind us, we'll be in a better spot. These 2 weeks have been pretty hard here at the Newman Center. I didn't realize how this schedule would affect us with Mass on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday last week, and then again this week. I'm grateful to those of you with your patience that we weren't able to offer a homily reflection on the Feast of the Holy Family last week. I was just a little too tired around here. I needed some time to rest. So again, thank you for your generous spirit and your understanding. I truly did think the new year might be different. But in honesty, in the past couple of days of prayer, God seems to be letting me in on a little secret that frankly I don't like. 2021 is going to be hard. At least for me. I want to think that all the challenges are in the past and finally there'll be a year of rest. I do know that this coming year will be filled with opportunities, but also full of challenges. Part of preparing for 2021, of entering into this newness, is not running too fast from the past. This week, praying with you, 3 gospel images struck me. On the solemnity of Mary, the Holy Mother of God, we hear her response. After the shepherds have visited and shared what was revealed by God to them, we are told, "And Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart." Now, chronologically previous in our calendar, but scripturally later, when we celebrated the Feast of the Holy Family, we continue the next part of the story, where Jesus is brought to the temple by Mary and Joseph. There they meet a man named Simeon. Simeon recognizes in this baby that this is the Christ. But he also says that Jesus will be a sign of contradiction and that Mary herself will be pierced with a sword. Today, after encountering Christ, the Magi cannot return home the same way that they came. They have been changed. They have to go home by a different route. My friends, I believe that these 3 images can help us face the challenges and the excitement in the year ahead. It begins by reflecting on what has come before. Have you taken time yet to sit down and to really look at your experience of the past year? Much has happened in our lives and in our world. How have we been affected? It would be a great mistake not to take time, not to recall, not to re-experience the things that have the great potential to teach us and to form us and to shape us. Many of you know Father Tom Ogg, who often spends time here at the Newman Center. He's known for saying, experience not reflected upon dehumanizes. It happens in two ways. It happens on the one side when we become a consumer people who just want the next thing, keep filling me up, keep consuming more and more. But it also happens when challenging things, or we might even say negative things, occur in our life, when we're not really ready to let them be unpacked, to be explored. We just want to run and pretend they never happened. Either of these approaches loses the opportunity for reality to change and to transform us, for God to really be present. That's why that first image of Mary is so important. As the shepherd spoke, as everything was happening, she held it all in her heart. She didn't need to make a judgment or decision. She just pondered on it, let it steep inside of her. We need to hold these experiences of the last months in our heart and to reflect upon them. One of the challenges in reflecting on our experiences is actually holding on and recalling the good ones, the positive ones, the life-giving ones. For some reason, it's built into us that we tend to gravitate toward the negative experiences, to our own failings, to the hurts that happened to us. It's probably one of the reasons that many of us don't spend nearly enough time reflecting. As you think of 2020, as you talk about your experiences in your household, please don't focus too much on the negative, on the challenges. Acknowledge them honestly, evaluate if you've learned all you can from them, and then ask, but where did we experience God this year? It's not a conversation many households or families have. That's unfortunate, because a way for those God experiences to become imprinted on our souls and on our lives is to continue to talk about them, to remember them, and to draw strength from them. It's true, both the challenges and the joys can reveal God's presence. In this reflecting together, we have the chance to let our lives be pierced by Christ's love and the Word of God. Who am I? Who are we? Who is God calling me to be? One of the uncomfortable gifts of the quiet and reduced activity of 2020 was the chance to evaluate and prioritize, to do some self-reflection. Am I where God wants me to be? Am I where I want to be? You probably remember vividly what it was like in March, when everything suddenly changed. Our lives were stripped of their routine and activity. No doubt, the first part of 2021 will continue to be challenging, but I pray as the vaccine becomes more available that we will be able to resume more activities that bring us together. When that happens, the question remains, what activities will I choose? Maybe one of the things you might want to try is to get out your calendar from 2019 and compare it to 2020. What were the things that you had to let go of in 2020 that really matter to you, that are important to you and your household and your family, and you want to be sure you continue and recover doing those? What are some of the things that you are really happy to let go of? Things that took your time and energy that you know just don't matter, that it would have seemed impossible in the beginning of 2020 to let go of, and then with the pandemic, just didn't matter anymore. What are you ready to say? No more of that. And then, what are some of the things you started doing in 2020 that you want to be sure to continue, that you don't want to let go of? And Mary, she kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart. These days in particular, poised between seasons, teetering on the edge of a new year, they lend themselves to pondering, to treasuring the year past in our hearts. What astonished us? What brought us to tears? What made us howl with laughter? What suffused us with joy? What brought us closer to God? We contemplate too What will the new year bring? Will it astonish us? What new griefs will we have to bear? Where will we find God? When will we desperately need God in the year to come? I want to share with you a powerful experience I had on New Year's Day. It was with a family. The husband, the father of 7, he's been on dialysis for a number of years, has lost a few toes, and is suffering more issues with lower extremities. Amputation is likely, and that means he'll be spending most of the rest of his life in hospital or a care facility. His faith in God, his love in his family, has enabled him to say, no, that's okay. No more dialysis. I'm ready to put myself into God's love and care. As I gathered with him and he shared his life story with me, baptized, raised a Catholic, confirmed, for whatever reason wasn't able to be married in the church in 1983, and then found himself gradually stepping back, although still baptizing all of his children. His wife Nancy was there in a beautiful conversation. He wanted to receive Eucharist. Of course, we were able to let that happen. And then I said to him, do you have any interest in getting married in the church? And he just laughed and said, all I can wear are these pajamas these days. There's no way I can come to church like that. And I said, what if the church comes to you? His wife, very wise woman, she said, I don't care if I get married in the street or in the church. I think God knows the depth of our love. And in God's eyes, we're married. And she's absolutely correct about that. I said, no doubt. But if this might be something that would bring you joy, just know I would be honored to celebrate this sacrament with you. I got a call from their son a couple days later. He said, we're ready. We want to do it. So gathered last night with a beautiful family, with sons and daughters and grandchildren and nieces and nephews, as this couple made their promises to each other once again, nearly 40 years later. The words to promise to love and honor one another all the days of their life certainly meant something different now, but it was no less true than it was all those years ago. When we finished, he smiled and he said, I'd still marry her all over again. I said, I'm pretty sure you just did. That experience for me, that's cross, that's gospel, that's kingdom. It's not easy. We know that death is a part of life, and at the same time to experience all the joys that life has to offer. That's the encounter with Christ. The Magi in today's gospel, as they traveled from the east, they followed a light, a star of sorts. Some of us have been gifted to look out in these last weeks and see the Bethlehem star, that astrological phenomenon. But in the gospel tradition, the point isn't the star in the sky. It's a metaphor for the light of Christ, for the call of the Lord. When we follow God's invitation, we meet Christ. They allowed God to lead them, and they encountered Christ. As you think about the year ahead, and you begin reconstructing your life, your calendar, as you choose what activities, what meetings, what gatherings you're going to say yes, and what you're going to say no to, it's a chance again to say, who is God making me to be? Probably, as you're listening to this right now, you're safely in your own home. Maybe you want to take a risk and do what the Magi did, to give homage. Maybe you want to pause right now and lay prostrate on the floor for a few minutes, face down in the presence of the Almighty, laying there, recognizing the presence of Christ in you and all around you. As we get back up, we have to see things differently. Something has been revealed to us. I am convinced that God is using this time of pandemic to continue to reveal God's self to us. God is revealing where God's people are still groaning and persecuted and struggling under oppression. God is revealing all the busyness in our lives that just doesn't matter. God is revealing a new way forward, focused on Him. Do we have the courage to take a different route? Every year on the celebration of the Epiphany, I invite people to go home from St. Paul's by a different route, to drive to a part of Laramie you usually wouldn't go to. I ask you to stop by the hospital, the jail, Spring Wind, the care center, to sit there silently in your car and pray. to imagine the women and men who need to experience God's love and God's light. We need to do that more this year than ever. Maybe after you finish today, you want to take your household and get in the car, driving together. That's a pretty safe thing to do. And as you drive, look and pray. Tell God you're ready. Tell God you are ready for the challenge of the year ahead. Tell God you are ready to reconstruct your schedule and your priorities. My friends, experience not reflected upon dehumanizes. The worst thing we can do is to pretend 2020 never happened. One of the worst things we can do as Catholics is to come to communion again and again and not be changed. We have been brought to this place, to this very moment together in faith. Let's agree together to enter 2021 by a different route, following the star of God in our lives.